Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today I kind of want to talk about the quarterbacks and the running backs of this draft class. Though yes, they're seen as being like one of the weaker links of this draft class, I still think there's some good players who, especially at the top, and I think there's some good developmental players later on in the draft. So kind of showing you on the screen right now, showing you how I rank these prospects. I have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 are prospects who I think could easily go anywhere between pick 1 through 18. High, mid, or low kind of depends on, do I think they're going to be I feel pretty confident they're going to be a for sure higher, like they're going to work out. They're in the like top six of my big board. Mid, like I said, 7 to 12. Then obviously go from 13 to 18. Tier 2 is going from pick 19 all the way to 50. So this could be like your back half of the first round, where they might slip to the second round, but I don't see them slipping past 51. In that kind of way of like, where some people will overdraft people, but in my opinion, they should be probably picked right here. And then going on a little bit later, you have tier 3. Tier 3 is the widest, obviously, because again, tier 3 can be anything. It could be scheme dependent. It could be, maybe they have a character concerns. Maybe it's someone who I have as a riser that I think that people might uh, overdraft in some people analyst ways. But I love this player. These top 100 players, I haven't been able to go in as depth as I have in years past due to my teaching job. But I still want to show you like my opinions and show them where I think they could possibly go and when I think they could possibly go. So without further ado, let's start off with the quarterbacks. Now the quarterbacks of this season, this draft class is not the best. I mean, we already know this. Like everybody's talking about the 2027 draft class. A lot of people were talking about this draft class even last year, and I was not one of them. I was trying to tell people that K. Klubnik and Drew Aller were not that kind of prospect people were trying to put them as. Um, and as per usual, there is usually a quarterback that ascends late, and that's what's happening right now with Fernando Mendoza. So we'll talk about him just a little bit in a second. But starting off with quarterback 5. Quarterback 5, in my opinion, who again see as a low tier, tier 3, is going to be Taylor Green. I think Taylor Green's probably going to go day 3, but there's a possibility that he could go, maybe just possibly he could go all the way up to pick 98, 100 to see who's over there waiting to try to get like their stuff like a backup quarterback to develop, because Taylor Green is a very traitsy kind of quarterback. Got long strides, fast guy. I mean, you saw him like a 4.3 something. Um, can jump through the gym. Got an amazing arm. Deep ball thrower. The problem with Taylor is the mechanics, and I think that's the reason why. Like I said, initially a lot of people had him as a very late day 3, but after the combine, people were trying to push him forward. Somebody tried to put him as a second round pick, which I think is the craziest thing ever. But I am even going further and saying that he could possibly be a third round pick. I don't think he will be, but it's a possibility because in my mind, his accuracy is just not there. Some has to do with mechanics, some has to do with, just like his processing, which I think over time, maybe 2 years down the road, he could possibly potentially, get there. I think he's more so of um, you know, a backup that has an amazing arm, that's got talent that you're just hoping could potentially be a future starter. But at the end of the day, you're probably just going to get him, and then hopefully he can be like Dallas's backup quarterback right now, from Tennessee. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but basically being that kind of role of being like athletic freak who's developing, who could potentially be somebody, but who knows. Um, in my opinion, for Taylor Green, I'm looking at him being a dual threat. So, who fits in that kind of dual threat system right now with the Dolphins and how their situation is, where they got Malik Willis. Malik Willis is in a situation where he's going to be a starter for the next couple of years. And I understand that a lot of people are trying to say that, well, if Miami is a top pick, they're going to take a quarterback. I'm not so sure about that. I don't think they're going to do that. I might be wrong, but in my opinion, I don't think that. I think the Dolphins are for the long haul, not going to not try to go for a quarterback, but instead go for whoever they could possibly get. In my opinion, one of the top talents in the 2027 draft class. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Secondly, I could see potentially even the Cowboys. Like, yes, I talked about that before with their quarterback situation right now. I think that like if they want to go for more local prospect who the fans are also like. I mean, the fans also like the backup quarterback, anyways. But we won't go with like a third QB option. I think that's possible as well. Uh, don't feel as comfortable with there, but I don't really feel like there's a lot of places where Taylor Green can really go. And the last one is the one that I've just seen that they are in the prospect of taking a late quarterback. And in my opinion, I don't think it's a great fit because, again, it doesn't really fit Matt McCarthy's system. But the Steelers have at least visited him. So out of that, I'm going to put the Steelers. Again, I feel like Taylor Green's best spot more than likely is like the Dolphins in like their late third round pick, where they can sit him for definitely 2 years behind Malik Willis. Malik Willis has a 3-year contract. By that third year, if they feel comfortable with Taylor Green, then Taylor Green could take over. If not, then like I said, you just spin around on a third round pick and it's fine. And you don't have to worry about trying to look for a quarterback in 2027 because you have your starter, you have your backup, and then you're just trying to develop and try to see what you have there. So in my opinion, I think it's gonna be more of the Dolphins, but I might be wrong. Uh, Now moving on to QB4. QB4 is a quarterback that, though I don't really like, I'm not the biggest fan of him. I can see the intrigue by other people, and that is Drew Aller. I was not a big fan of Drew Aller coming into this season. I know that there's a lot of people saying him as being the top QB prospect. I understand that he has very, very big tools. Same thing I said with Taylor Green. I feel kind of the same way with both of them in different scenarios. Both of them have great mobility. Both of them have very strong arm, but the accuracy is a little bit of a concern for me. Some of the mechanics, and with Drew Aller, I just see time and time again him not being able to step up in big moments. And I know that some of that it's not just on him for those kind of things, but the key thing for me to see just trying to see how you process a quarterback is when things are not going well, how do you respond? And in those late game moments, are you stepping up? Are you making the throws, or are you crumbling? And unfortunately, I've seen that from Drew Aller for the last 3 years at this point. Obviously, last year he got hurt, so like I say, he wasn't able to show throughout the season. But I don't feel the best about Drew Aller. However, I see the tools. I see him being like that third round backup who's hopefully being able to develop in the league. But I don't feel great about it. The teams I could possibly see, we talked about this before with Taylor Green, but Steelers obviously they're looking for a late quarterback. I don't feel like he's like a Steelers kind of quarterback, like a Mike McCarthy kind of quarterback. But if he's there in the third round, because again the Steelers are just like the Dolphins have multiple third round picks, they could take a flyer on him and be like, well, let's see what we have in him, see if he can develop, and if he can't, then oh well. There's like it's not going to be that big of a deal. We lost out on a third round pick. Um, Even the Jets, though the Jets have not been able to develop any kind of quarterback, um, pretty much since maybe you could say maybe Joe Namath. Like they haven't really been able to develop anybody, so I don't feel the best about him going there. But if you're to say, hey Jets, you want to go full in of your team and making sure you get the best players available without trying to reach on a quarterback, and going next year you have 3 first round picks, maybe you go to quarterback, or maybe you just try to get best players available. If that's a quarterback, then so be it. Then like I can understand that. So if the Jets just want to take a flyer on a quarterback, have him sit behind Geno, then I think that Drew Aller could be the person. But in my opinion, I don't think he's going to go with the Jets. Who I do think it's possible is for the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are an interesting spot. Going into Baker Mayfield's last year of his deal that he signed, like I said, signed a big contract. He's been worth pretty much every penny for the Buccaneers. I think he's going to come back to the Buccaneers, but there could be a situation where he doesn't. The Buccaneers are in a very weird spot, especially with the whole, is Todd Bowles even going to last the rest of the year? Like, we don't really know what's going on with the Buccaneers right now. The fans hate him, and they want him gone, but he's not going to be gone. So it's a whole mess. But in my opinion, I think that Drew Aller could be a potential signing by the Buccaneers to make sure that they have a backup quarterback to develop under Baker Mayfield, different kind of quarterback, and maybe he could be the future, or maybe you're like, well, he's just going to be a backup quarterback for Baker in case Baker gets hurt, because Baker has gotten hurt, and you needed somebody to step up. So maybe that might be the case. So out of the three, I think that Drew Aller could possibly go to the Buccaneers. Now, moving on to QB3, kind of ramp this up a little bit. Garrett Nussmeier. Garrett Nussmeier, I believe, was my QB1 coming into this season. I liked what he did last year for LSU. Obviously, LSU had good amount of weapons. Unfortunate situation to have with Kyron Lacy. But he came back this season. We're thinking that LSU is going to start off really well. Same kind of thing happened with Clemson. I'll talk about Clemson players as well. And then, yeah, he was hurt. There was other things that were going on with Garrett Nussmeier. But as far as his processing, I love his processing. I love you could definitely tell that he's a coach's kid because, like I said, he like the way that he's able to dissect a defense. You can see that his arm's not the best. So again, he's more so like a facilitator. Um, and if I'm putting him in a system, putting him in a system that's going to be more so just a lot of quick throws, a lot of just divvying it out wherever possible. Maybe he can hit the deep ball, but that's not his strong suit. His strong suit is trying not to create a lot of turnovers. Obviously, he has some turnovers in his injury season, but trying to create a lot of turnovers and trying to, you know, just just keep the offense humming. Pretty much, he's basically just like he's just facilitated. That's what I see him as. And so I like him a lot better than Drew Aller or even Taylor Green. I think he's closer to that, early third round, maybe I don't think he's going to get second round. I don't think he's good there, but I think more than likely he's in that 70 range. I would say 70, 75 range. Um, and so who could possibly Garrett Nussmeier go to? Now, speaking firstly, now we can talk about the Rams. The Rams are an option for Garrett Nussmeier mainly because of the fact that the Rams do need a backup quarterback, or really who is going to be that next guy after Matthew Stafford. Right now, it's the mailman from Georgia, but I don't think he's going to be there. Stetson Bennett, he might be there for the long haul, but I just don't feel great about Stetson Bennett. I think he's just a backup, and maybe Garrett Nussmeier is too, but I feel better about Garrett Nussmeier than I do about Stetson Bennett. So Garrett Nussmeier could go there. Be the backup to Matthew Stafford, or just the Rams just go all in, and that could just possibly be it too. Because the Rams, like I said, don't have a third round pick, but they could trade back in the first round and pick up a third round pick. Next one possibly is the Colts. I think the Colts are an interesting situation, and this is ultimately where I think that Garrett Nussmeier will go if he goes is in the third round. Is go to the Colts just because they have basically, all right, Garrett, you're here for now. Uh, Try to keep us going along while we're waiting for Daniel Jones to come back. And then Daniel Jones, like I said, hopefully when he comes back, obviously he'll be the top guy, but you'll get good reps for Garrett Nussmeier in the meantime while he gets to sit behind Daniel Jones and develop. And then after that time, like I said, especially Daniel Jones gets hurt again, which more like he's going to, then Garrett Nussmeier can take over. So again, I think it's better for him to go to the Colts and a Shane Steichen kind of offense where just don't have a lot of turnovers and you're fine. And that's what Daniel Jones did at the very beginning before obviously he got hurt. So in my mind, it's Colts probably the best spot for him. But there's a possibility he could also go to the Jets. Same thing I said for Drew Aller. It's just there's not been a lot of development for the Jets. And yes, I'm not trying to say it's an organizational thing because more likely it is. But you have new guys in the building. Maybe you could be like, well, maybe Frank Wright might be able to develop him a little bit better. But I don't know. In my mind, I just don't want a quarterback going to the Jets right now. I want the Jets to just kind of fill out their roster as much as they possibly can. Maybe you take one in 2027, but at this rate, just try to get the most impact guys you can get right now to try to save Aaron Glenn's job because I want to see if Aaron Glenn can be able to develop this team because I believe in Muji, I believe in his plan, but I don't know if Glenn is going to be a part of it if they can't have any kind of impact in year two. So that's tier three. Going to QB2, it's pretty simple. I mean, the one and two should be simplified. It should be Mendoza number one and Ty Simpson number two. I think that there have been some interesting debate about who's QB one. If you talk about Dan Orlovsky, I don't think you can just take the first 9 games and be like, oh, that's how I see it. I agree with what you're saying, Dan, about yes, Ty Simpson early into the season, like midpoint, I was like, well, I think Ty Simpson could be QB1, and I was kind of on that hype train. Then he got hurt, and then, like I said, you start seeing some more of the flaws that were already happening with Ty Simpson, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I do think the Ty Simpson in the right spot could work out. I like his processing. I like the fact that, like, making checks to the line. He ran yes, you could talk about this how the Seahawks were last year, but he technically ran an NFL style offense. He made checks to the line that he himself were able to do, and there were several throws, and that's why I agree with somewhat of what Dan Orlovsky was saying. There are so many throws you can see from in big games of him making just absolutely, like, through very tight windows kind of throws. Like, these are NFL throws, so I know that he has it in him. Will he hold up? And it's a problem I still kind of have with it, Garrett Nussmeier a little bit. Didn't really talk about that, but like I said, I see Garrett Nussmeier be more of a backup. Ty Simpson, I can see his potentially being a starter. Like I said, I think that he is I think he's a great quarterback. I think that he has shown in the past of, like, making great plays, of making great throws. But when he got hurt, and he was obviously hurt like that second half of the season, like, you started to see some of the problems come up. Like, is he going to be able to last in, like, the NFL? Is he going to be able to, not have to be, you know, be beat up the whole entire time? Like I said, I think he's kind of a smart quarterback. However, I'm a fan of the Panthers. Like, I was a big fan of Bryce Young, and I'm glad we have Bryce Young. And Bryce Young is also a smaller quarterback, but he's shown toughness. He's shown to be able to, like, take a hit. So is Ty Simpson going to be able to do that in the NFL? I hope so, because I think that he's a special talent. I think that, like, yes, he's going to fall in the draft. I think he should. I think he should be, like, more than likely, he should be a second round pick. Might go the first, but I don't think that he should. But he should be like a second round pick. Um, in my mind, there are some teams that he could go to. This is the top three that's everybody been talking about: the Browns, the Jets, and the Cardinals. Um, the Jets, like I said, I have said this already before. I don't think the Jets should be taking a quarterback. I don't think they should. Even though I much like Ty Simpson, I just don't think he's there. He just I want him to go to a better situation. Uh, Secondly, the Browns. Yes, I know that Monken knows Ty's dad. I know that, like, they've I think both him and Cardinal Tate went on, like, the top 30 visits together, which I think Cardinal Tate is very much going to go to the Browns. So I think it's a possibility that he could be drafted by the Browns, but I don't love that because, again, right now with the Browns, you got Deshaun Watson, who's going to be on a contract. They're still trying to make work because, again, he's it's money that you got to pay him regardless. So if you want to have the most expensive backup, then fine. And then Shadur Sanders. So again, do you want to add in technically the fourth quarterback because you got Dylan Gabriel? I don't know. I don't know what the Browns are doing right now. I'm hoping they have a better future because right now it's not looking the best. But I don't think Tyson should go to the Browns. But lastly, I do think that he should go to the Cardinals because he's not going to be forced to start right away. So if he goes to the Cardinals, he sits behind Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is able to have a pretty decent year with great weapons. Again, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. I mean, the running back situation is interesting. Like I said, I know there's some people trying to say they're going to try to get Jeremiah Love. I don't see, because they signed Tyler Algier. They already have Trey Benson. They already have James Conner again. Their running back room is crowded unless they want to try to cut somebody. But again, why would you want to spend a top 3 pick on a running back? You already have a not loaded, but I would say stuffed running back room. So it doesn't make any sense. But if you're talking about Ty Simpson having the weapons, having 2 great wide receivers, having an amazing, like, a top 4 tight end for sure. So having the weapons at your disposal, hopefully you can fix that offensive line, because, again, that's one of the key concerns I have for the Cardinals. I love Paris Johnson. Love him to death. He's a staple for sure. But can you fill out the rest of your offensive line? There's potential for them to trade down. I think that's the best option for the Cards right now. And then Monty's trying to save his job. So if Monty's able to draft Ty Simpson and then able to rebuild this offensive line, and then with Jacoby Brissett being the quarterback, you start having a decent a decent offense, maybe even a pretty decent defense at times showed up. If Walsh and Nolan can continue to improve, I think Monty keeps his job. So again, In my mind, that works even better. I think that Ty Simpson should go to the Cardinals in the second round. Maybe he's pick 34 if you want to make sure you get him. But like I said, you can even trade down with the Cardinals if you want to and get that too. Now, moving on to Fernando Mendoza. So, Fernando Mendoza, like I said, he is tier one. He is obviously the QB1. And it's pretty obvious at this point, like he's going to go to the Raiders. I don't think there's any kind of doubt there. Honestly, I think that I would say he's higher than Cam Ward was for me, but not by much. Um, I still have him as like a low tier one because again, I know that he's going to go number one overall, but do I think the talent is that way? No. Like he's not a can't miss prospect. No, some people try to call him generational. I don't think that's the case. I do think that he's going to be able to last the NFL. He's got the build to be able to do so. I think he's a great processor. I think he has a pretty decent arm. I understand there are some concerns about the offense that Indiana ran, but even though a lot of his passes were on, RPO kind of action, he still did show some throws, especially on third down, especially also great placement throws on back shoulder throws that are NFL throws. And that's what I'm saying. Is like, yes, you can be in a system where it's not really conducive to the NFL, but still work out in the NFL if you also show that you have the ability to be able to make reads, be able to, make layered passes, be able to, escape a little bit. He doesn't have the best mobility, but he's not an absolute statue like what Mac Jones was coming out of college. I think that he's a little bit better than that. So again, and also in big moments, Mendoza showed out this season, took Indiana to national championship game. He is out forever going to be a legend there, no doubt. So again, no hesitation that Fernando Mendoza QB1. I think that he's going to work on the NFL as well. Maybe it might take him a little bit. Like I know they're going to basically have him behind Kirk Cousins for like the first year, but ultimately I think that he's going to do really well. This video took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, so I'm going to do the running back video another one. I know I said at the very top we can do both of them, but I realized that it's coming up on about 20 minutes, so makes no sense why I'm going to try to make this an hour long. So I will stop here. But thanks so much for watching about the QBs, and I will see you in the next one talking about running backs. That is the dog right there. Thank you, Dutton. Thank you, Dutton. You good? Okay. So, like I said, yeah. Hey, Dutton, could you stop? Okay. You're just looking at me. I know. Do you want? I know you want to play. Let me make this video first, okay? Let me make this video first. Let me make this video first, okay?